Hi everyone, welcome to Luminate at Home. My name's Flo and I'm filming this in my kitchen in Glasgow. And you might have seen the other video I did for Luminate, but I briefly explained that I'm an artist and I normally work with ceramics, making work with clay, making ceramic objects, usually functional objects for the house like plates, bowls, vases. And I sometimes work a bit with textiles. But since the lockdown I haven't really been able to access my studio and work with clay, which has been a bit of a shock, but it's made me think about other things that I can do from home. So one of the things that I've been trying to kind of keep myself busy with is learning how to weave tapestries. So weaving is the process using a loom, usually these are wooden, and using yarn, different colours, yarn and wool, to weave under and over kind of warps to create images. And that's something we're going to be having a bit of a go at today. So in a similar way to how I've been weaving on a wooden loom using lots of different coloured yarns and string and wool, we're going to be going through how you can make a loom and have a go at weaving yourself just using things that you can find around the house. So it's quite a simple activity and it only requires a couple of different things. And what you'll need to do it is a piece of cardboard, roughly a bit smaller than an A4 size piece of paper. If you don't have any cardboard, another thing that you can do is cut off the back of a cereal box. That's quite a good size and thing that you can make use of. Some string or wool. That doesn't need to be too long, maybe just about a couple of meters max, I think. Some sellotape, a pair of scissors, and any kind of plastic bags or bits of kind of scrap paper that you've got lying around the house. So here I've got a takeaway menu, some kind of foam packaging stuff, and a couple of different coloured plastic bags. Kind of the more colourful things you've got, the better, but just whatever you can find. So you can either do this activity today as I'm doing it, or you can watch the video the whole way through and then have a go at doing it afterwards. But you can keep checking back on the video as little reminders for all the steps. Or if you're doing it whilst I'm doing it, always feel free to pause it at any moment. If you need to take a break for whatever reason, feel free to do that. Just do it at your own pace. Or if you want to rewind a step, if you're not quite sure what you're doing, you can always do that. So just do it however you feel like, and remember to enjoy and have fun. And also remember, it's a real shame that I'm not there with you whilst you're doing that activity. So please just remember to take care and just do it all at your own pace. Okay, great. So hopefully you've all got all your materials together, and the first stage is to make the actual loom from the piece of cardboard. So what we need to do is to mark on 5 lines at the top and 5 lines at the bottom of the cardboard that match up with each other. So I'm going to use a ruler for this bit, but if you don't have a ruler, you can kind of eyeball it and it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to mark 1 line there, and 1 line there, and then move the ruler along, mark 1 line there, 1 line there. Great, so we've got our 5 lines at the top and 5 lines at the bottom. So what we want to do now is just cut slits in each of those lines. Roughly about 2 centimetres is good, but accuracy isn't completely important in this activity. It's just to give you a feel of learning to weave. So I'm going to cut those slits there. And like I said, feel free to pause the video at any point if you feel like you need to catch up. So there we have our slits. And the next stage is to get your string or your wool or whatever you've got. And what I'm going to do is turn this piece of cardboard over and sellotape a piece there just to keep it nicely in place. So that's attached to the back of the loom. And what we're going to do, it doesn't matter if that's ended up on the right side or the left side of the cardboard, because what we're going to do is we're going to start wrapping it round and getting that string to sit in each of those slits. We're going to go from the bottom one to the top one, like that, and wrap it round the back and come up through the bottom one. You might need to loosen that ball of string a little bit to give you a bit of slack. I'm going to bring it up from the bottom, back into the top one, round the back, up from the bottom. And this is a technique that weavers use called warping up, because these strings that form the basis of the tapestry you're weaving are called the warps, and then the things that you weave across it are called the weft. So right now this is a process called warping up. Great. So once you've got all those strings in place, and you should feel that there's a little bit of movement to them, but they're not completely floppy, but they're not completely tight so that they're pulling the cardboard up together. What we can do is turn it back on its rump, cut the string, and then sellotape that in place. Great, so there we have our cardboard loom. Cool, so now we want to make the kind of makeshift yarn, I guess, that we're going to use to weave on that makeshift loom. So I've just gathered a couple of plastic bags here that are all different colours. And what we'd like to do is what we should do is cut them into strips that can almost act as like string. So a good way of doing that is cutting off the bottom of the plastic bag and putting that to one side because you don't need that. That holds it together, and then cutting off strips. It doesn't matter what thickness you go for, it depends kind of, it will all give different effects when you actually go to use it on the loom. So I'm going to cut off a strip that's roughly about that big. And like I said, if you haven't got plastic bags, you can always do the same with paper. So there's quite a one loop, and I'm just going to cut that so it turns it into a longer strip, like that. And I'm going to do it with, cut a strip from this nice yellow tool station bag to give a bit more colour. So I'm just going to cut it off from the top of this. And it's interesting when you start looking around the house, all these amazing colourful things that you can find that you would never really think that you could use to create kind of pieces of art out of. And all the different patterns you can find in these plastic bags, like this nice stripy one here. So I'm going to cut off a strip from the bottom of that. So you've got some yellows, blue, red, white, maybe a kind of darker colour here. Also, if you do have yarn or wool at home that you've been using for other things, feel free to use that as well. I was just using things I could find around the house, but the more things you might want to incorporate, the better. So I'll get some of that. And then maybe we'll go for a nice, go for the Morrison's bag. This could be quite nice because it's got different flecks of colour in it. So I'm going to go down the middle to get some of that logo in. Okay, so we've got a couple of different strips of different colours, and I think this might be enough to start with, but feel free to keep on cutting and adding different colours into the mix or different materials. But for me, for now, I think this will suit us well. So you want to grab that loom that we made, and I think we're ready to start weaving. Okay, so now you should have your loom and the strips of plastic bags or leaflets or fabric or bits of wool or whatever you found around the house. And they might have been cut really neatly, thin strips, which is great, or they might be cut quite sort of rough and thick, a bit like me, which is also great. So if you're ready, we can start weaving, but if not, now might be a good time to pause the video, finish collecting all your strips or making your loom, and then come back and you can watch and learn how to weave. Great, so you want to choose one colour strip to start with, and I'm going to go for blue. And you want to start at the bottom left hand corner that's closest to you, either by just placing it underneath or by tying it round that first string just to help secure it in place. But if it's a bit tricky to tie the knot, don't worry, you can just rest it underneath, because this is just about the process of learning how it's done. So now we've got that in place, what we want to do is have a go at moving this strip over and under the yarn. So first it's going to go over this one and then under that one, pull it through, over, and then underneath that one, and pulling it all the way through. And every so often you might just want to push it down to neaten things up a bit. And then we're going to start going back in the other direction, so bringing it over this yarn this time and then underneath this yarn. Over, under. Over, and then back round and under. And you can see that it's doing the opposite thing to the previous strip, so over, under. Over, under. And going back round the other way. Under, over, under. I really enjoy doing this because I feel like it's got quite a nice rhythm to it. You're sort of creating these patterns with this rhythm of going under and over and under. It's quite sort of repetitive in a way, which is quite satisfying, I find. So we're going to go over and under. Over and under. And actually, because we're coming to the end of this strip, if we've got enough left in it, we can have a go at tying it around that last thread. But like I said, if that's a bit tricky, you can just leave it there, resting underneath it. And I'm just going to push these down together so they create a bit more. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to choose another strip. I'm going to go for yellow this time. And starting from this end, again, I'm going to tie that in place. I'm working with the end of that. I'm going to start by going under. So just, you can get an idea of what to do because you can look at the previous row and I can see that that's gone over that string, so I know it needs to now go underneath it. So under. And you can even leave it quite thick like that in a way if you want to create more kind of bold stripes, or you can kind of bunch it together a bit like that. Quite nice if sometimes the plastic bag twists over on itself, because that can add a bit more texture. And I'm just going to tie that one off there. You can always tuck it behind as well, so it's not visible. Next colour, I'm going to go for this nice stripy red and white and tie it on at this end there. And this technique is one that's used, I guess, yeah, it's used for making rugs, tapestries, clothes, and it can be done in different ways. It can be done on kind of massive wooden looms or kind of mechanised looms, or yeah, or quite basic ones, kind of in a similar way to how we've been doing. So I'm going to go back the way. And then I think I can get one more strip out of that one. And then I'm just going to tie that around there. Like so. And then for the last strip I'm going to use this navy blue. Tying it on that end. And it doesn't really matter which end you start at, actually. And there we have it. I'm going to tie that round there. Great. So there's our little plastic bag tapestry. Great, so hopefully you've all ended up with something a little bit like this. We've done quite a lot today. We've learned actually how to make a loom and how to weave on that loom using things from around the house, which is great. And I've done mine relatively quickly, and that's because I cut quite thick strips of plastic. But you might want to have a think about cutting thinner strips and using wool or string or other things, and really take your time with it. You don't need to rush it, just do it all at your own pace. It might be something that you want to even just weave 10 minutes a day and add a little bit more each time. It's totally up to you. So also the beauty of weaving is that nothing is completely permanent. So if you don't like something you've done, you can always untie it and unravel it and put something else there in its place, which is quite nice to think about. So this is I'll just show you weaving I've been working on a loom. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, that's kind of a sort of an evolved version of the loom that we've just made. So like this one, it's got its warps going up, but these warps are quite a lot closer together, and that's because the wool that I've been using is a lot thinner, so that's so you can't see all the warps at the end of the tapestry. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of how this kind of quite simple process that we've learned today can move on to kind of more detailed or complex things if you feel like it. So yeah, thanks so much for taking part in this activity. I hope you've had a nice time. And yeah, it'd be great if you feel like sharing anything you've done today. But yeah, thank you. Bye bye.